Well, in life, every man has twin obligations. One, obligation to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So, twin obligations, two obligations. One is to your family and the other is to your country. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. So in a free society, it is up to you how you take care of those obligations. It is your own inclinations that will tell you what you should do to maintain those two obligations. Which two? One, to your family, and two, to your country. But in a country like South Africa, before it got independence, it was almost impossible for any man of my country, birth and color, to fulfill both these obligations. So he says before independence, it was so difficult in South Africa for people, the dark-skinned people, to fulfill any of their obligations, because everything was dictated to them. They didn't have any freedom, so they couldn't do what they were inclined to do. Rather, they had to follow restrictions, right? Inclinations is natural tendencies of behavior. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duties to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and forced to live a life apart. A twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. So initially he was just doing what he was supposed to do. But then he decided to do something for his people. He started attempting to serve his people. And while he was serving his people, he found that he had restrictions placed on him. He was not allowed to do his duties as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. I was not born with the hunger to be free. I was born free. Right? He says when a child was born, the child doesn't know what is freedom, the child doesn't know what is no freedom. A child is just born a child. And naturally, inherently, the child is born free. Free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. Free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the road backs of slow-moving bulls. So he would ride on the backs of bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. As a child, he was free. He says he was free to do what he wanted like any other child, right? But again, in that freedom, there were some restrictions. He had to follow the law. He had to abide by the rules laid down by his tribe, but he was not troubled by them. These rules, these laws were not restrictions. They were just placed to make him, safe, to give him safety and other people's safety. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered that as a young man, that my freedom had already been taken away from me, that I began to hunger for it. So he did not crave for freedom when he was a child, because he had all the freedom he needed within the boundaries, right? But as he grew up, as a young man, he realized that certain freedoms have been taken away from him. He doesn't have the freedom that he so desires. And that is when he started hungering, going for it, wishing for it, having a great desire for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I chose. So as a young boy, as a college student, when he was a student at university perhaps, he just wanted, the kind of freedom that every person wants. To read what he wants to choose where to go, what time to get back, etc. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedom of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So he brings out the different kinds of freedom, right? So here he's brought out the freedom of a child. He says in Africa, under the white supremacy, the child's freedom he was able to get. It was only when he became an adult that he realized his freedom is just an illusion, a dream, a vision. He doesn't actually have it. He wanted to, just like any other child who goes to college, to study what he wanted to study, to do what he wanted to choose to go out to a place he wanted to, come back, etc. But there were restrictions. Then as he grew up and started working, there were restrictions. So that is when the change started coming in him, right? Then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free either. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined the African National Congress. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So he realized that the freedom that was curtailed was, it was curtailed not only from him, but from everybody. It was curtailed for everyone that looked like him. And that is when he realized that he had to fight for his freedom. So he joined the Congress, not only to fight for his own freedom, but also for the people of his, of his kind.
Now, subscribe to Bright Tutee course at ₹1 per day only. Download Bright Tutee app from Play Store and get the online courses prepared by competent and experienced teachers for different education boards of classes 6 to 10. Bright Tutee courses are available for the subjects of Math, Science, Social Science, English and Hindi in English and Hindi medium. Bright Tutee follows 3-step approach, that is learning, assessment and exam preparation. In learning, topic-wise video lectures with explanation of concepts and discussion of textbook examples and questions are available with the solutions. In assessment, topic-wise online MCQ test, practice assignments and chapter-wise question bank are available with the solutions. In exam preparation, previous year's question papers, sample papers and model test papers are available with the solutions. Sign up today on Bright Tutee and avail your courses at affordable prices.